founding president of the Modesto Stanislaus NAACP. We are hosting this candidates forum tonight, and we're very pleased to have all of you with us. In 1965, Dr. Martin Luther King wrote an article that appeared on Sunday, March 14th, in the issue of the New York Times. In this article, he declared that the #1 civil right is the right to vote. Voting is the foundational stone of political action. It's the basic element vital to African Americans advancing and can only be achieved by seeking redress from government at local, state, and national levels. To do this, voting is essential. But in order for us to vote with the power that is needed in that vote, we must be informed about our candidates. We must be informed about the issues that are impacting our communities, our homes, our lives. We don't want folks to vote blindly. So we're here tonight to get that information. I encourage you all to listen, to be curious, to ask questions. This year is a very important year, 2024. Things are changing for us in 2024. And this year, the vote is essential to what our lives are going to look like in the next 4 years. So here we are tonight, and I'd like to welcome all of you and all of our candidates who are speaking with us tonight. Our moderator is Mr. Don Blunt. I'd like to introduce and welcome Mr. Blunt. He is the Central Valley executive of the Mambachi newspaper. Our little paper, yay! Welcome, Mr. Blunt.
How is that? Okay. All right, we're going to start tonight with Mr. for Congress, Mr. Barkley, Mr. Gray, and Mr. Williams.
Okay, I'll start again. Thank you. Yes, you asked why I was running again here after 2022. 2022 was a test drive. I know what I was doing, and this year I spent 2 months, as I was saying, trying to talk myself out. I didn't want to. It's a grind. I know it can get vicious, it's hard, but sometimes you feel duty bound. Sometimes you feel that if you have the capabilities to do something, help people, if you have the capabilities to give voice to something and no one else is going to stand up and do it, then you have to. And it's really the reason I ran this time. It's just I felt duty bound to speak for the people in the middle of the political spectrum that have just been ignored for so long. But the big money interest coming from both sides.
So we're going to do that to show how rusty I am, coming out a little bit, and I haven't been a moderator for a while. We're going to jump back for a second. We'll start with opening remarks now. So, my bad, but it's not a unrepairable, So, Mr. Washington. Mr. Barkley, go ahead, please. Opening remarks. You have 2 minutes, sir.
My name is Mike Barkley. I'm running for a candidate. I'm a candidate for Congress in District 5, which includes this building and runs all the way to the top of Sierras, Blue Lake, east of Fresno, Pilot Hill, or Placerville. I'm a lawyer, an inactive CPA, and a computer programmer. I own a small business, which I built from the ground up from 1962 starting. I own a ranch with my brother, and I'm a Democrat. I'm running because there are things that need to get done in DC, including we need to get an handle on guns in this country and stop them killing, and a whole bunch of other things. And no other Democrat stepped up to run in this issue, so I am with that here on the next one.
Thank you, Mike. I want to say a warm welcome. My name is Leonard. Welcome to the 5th District. Good people here. Yes, I know I skipped ahead there and gave a little preview of myself before. But just honestly speak about why I'm running this independent. I just feel like I've been lost for so long in my life. Could never really attach myself to either label. You know, hey, I'm for the environment. Okay, you're a Democrat. Okay, well, I also believe in fiscal responsibility. Okay, you're a Republican. No, I'm kind of also, you know, believe in strong union. And they would just go back and forth, and the issues that I saw both establishment parties handle weren't tackling. Congress has had an approval rating in the same digits or nearing the teens for almost 2 decades now. And we keep electing the same partisans every time. It's not everybody else's representative. A lot of times it's yours. It's all of them. They come back every 2 years and they give you false hope, they give you false promises. And it's the same thing. And we're all just trying to, you know, get ourselves a good quality of life, good education for our kids. These are the issues that everybody should agree on. And yet they spend so much time squabbling over these wedge issues. Nobody makes the effort or has the willpower to go ahead and fight for those things that's going to lift everybody. A good majority of this country to agree on. So I'm tired of seeing myself and so many just, you know, treading water to keep our heads afloat, to wallow, you know, just holding on to those last glimmers of hope. Well, if you're looking for hope, that hasn't let you down yet, done for me.
Good evening. I want to start by thanking the moderator and the UNESCO Stanislaus chapter of the NAACP for hosting this forum this evening, giving us an opportunity to talk a little bit about our candidacy and our campaigns in this important election. My name is Adam Grant. I had the honor of serving this community in the state legislature for a decade. During that time, we got a lot done. I was able to take the work ethic that I learned growing up here in the San Joaquin Valley, growing Sacramento, and disrupt things from the current status of politics where there's a lot of finger pointing, a lot of blaming. People don't want to work together. Well, for 10 years, I worked with everyone, independents, Democrats, Republicans. I founded the California Problem Solvers Caucus. I was the chairperson of the New Democratic Coalition. We passed a water law in 2014, the first in decades that have money for the college. We passed an infrastructure act. We doubled what people funding here at the San Joaquin Valley with K-12 public schools. We invested in UC Percent. We actually have the beginnings of now a medical education program and someday independent medical schools. We go right here in the valley. We invested in our healthcare clinics, increased healthcare coverage. These are the kind of things that can get done when you put partisanship aside, when you have an open door to all parties. And when you work. Now, I've been talking about this campaign, it's become way too common for everyone's campaign slogan to be "I'm fighting for you." Not fight this, not fight that. We actually are now this last Congress watching members of Congress elbowing each other and fight in the halls of Congress literally. What we need is some people working for us. And that's what I'm running for Congress here in 24 is to get back to work, to put Congress back to work. To show that we can all work together as Americans and actually accomplish great things and improve our community. Thank you all for being here this evening to learn a little bit about myself and my campaign.
I run in District 10 before this, and I have knocked on doors of 172,500 registered voters in District 10. I ran out of voters, and that is accessible urban voters, so I started voting in 7,200. And this part of Stanislaus County represents 43% of the new District 5. So having already won 43% of the district, I thought I had it 2 years ago, and was disappointed to see that no other Democrats stepped forward. There are things in Washington, D.C. that need to get done. The good people of this district deserve representation that cares about them, and that is me. I'm running again because, once again, no one stepped up. So I am here. I have a list of people who could step up, but every time they ask them, they say, oh, no. So here I am. I'm hardworking, diligent, and I hope to be effective. And I received a lot of votes last time, and I hope to receive more this time.
Mr. Gray, you're a bit different in that you served, you ran, you came back again. explain to everybody why you, at this time, want to just step in and do this all over again.
Well, I think we're at a crossroads in our country with our politics. This last 2 years is the most unproductive Congress arguably in United States history. And the style of leadership that I brought to the state legislature, which again is one of working together, one of being able to roll up your sleeves and actually focus on difficult issues and compromise to make the community a better place to live, to not try to force your will upon every community around the state, but rather work with representatives from around this great country and try to find ways to make education better, to make communities safer, to invest in our roads and our reservoirs and our bridges. That's the work of government. It's a job, and we're hiring elected officials to go and do that job for us. What I see happening in Congress is the exact opposite of that. We get a little feedback here. So I'm running again because I think this community deserves representation that's going to work for you. It's going to take all interests seriously, that's going to sit down and do that difficult work. I've got a track record of doing it. 2 years ago, I ran against a gentleman with no record. Well, he has a record now. It's not one that's working for us. So look forward to the campaign and talking about the issues.
Mr. Weisenberg, expound a little bit on your top 2 reasons for running for office.
By the way, let me thanks again for organizing the afternoon.
Sure.
Top 2 reasons running for office. Like I said, giving voice to the silent. I'm 50, and I've been a voter for 32 years now, and I just every year spent waiting for somebody to step up and kind of speak to me and speak for me. And I came to the conclusion both parties do not. Both parties, they report to their principal's office when they get out of line. Go see Mr. Jeffries, go see Mr. Johnson, whatever. They're not the bosses of the Congress. You are. And so many people are forgotten. And there's nothing I would love more than actually have you as a boss. To have you tell me one more, to have you, give me praise when I actually do something right. So it's honestly, it's creating that voice for the unspoken more, and it's also trying to restore some sanity. We've spent so many years seeing these politicians and these parties squabble over the most petty wedge issues. Like I said, in the meantime, we all just want a good quality of life, good education, and nobody focuses on that. And I would focus only on that.
Mr. Barkley, same question to you.
Repeat the question, please.
Your top reasons for running for office. You mentioned earlier no one else would step up, that you couldn't find anyone to do that, that you actually knocked on doors of other number of different voters. But at the core, why do this? What can we bring to the Central Valley? How can we help the voters and residents in this region?
Well, I have a short list here of 10 reasons. But the short list is on my website at MikeBarkley4Congress.com. And the long list, if you press it on a button at the top of that, it'll give you a really long list that people complain about. It's too much to read. So the short list, I'll just start with the top 2. We need to strengthen wildfire protections and casualty insurance protection for every county in this district, even this county, because the west side of this county had a wildfire a few years ago. And secondly, we need to strengthen women's rights and the right to choose, because what the Supreme Court did was wrong, and it violates their oath of office. And someone needs to take them to task for that. Under the Constitution recognizes the constitutional right may only be revoked through amendment. There's no power anywhere in the Constitution that gives the Supreme Court the right to revoke a recognized right. But they did it anyway, and now they're making noises about Griswold versus Connecticut, the opinion that established the right to contraception, and also Obergefell, which established the right to marry. Those are the top 2 on my list. seem a good plan.
Well, staying with you for a moment, then, just to follow up on that, then we'll jump back down the road. What would you do to protect a woman's right for choice?
Well, of course, I would oppose the national right to abortion. Excuse me. I would oppose the national repeal of the right to abortion in Congress. But I think the Supreme Court needs to get challenged for its vote. And at least 5 of the people on that vote violated their constitutional oath of office when they voted to do that. And that needs to be challenged.
Mr. Wozniak, same to you.
That's the question.
What would you do, specific, for you, two-part? What's your stance on women's right to an abortion? What restrictions do you support, if any? And if you support a woman's right to choose, what do you do to support that right?
Well, the second question will be moot because I actually, like Mr. Barkley, I do believe the Dobbs decision is correct. Words abortion, reproductive care, any of that is not mentioned anywhere in the Constitution. There is no inherent right to that, so it not being included in the Constitution, like right from the back, becomes a state's right by definition of the Ninth Amendment. So I think the correct decision was correct, and I don't think Congress should meddle in states' rights. So I think it's a moot point for anybody running for federal office. It should be an issue for California.
Okay. Mr. Gray? What's your stance on women's right for an abortion?
I don't think government has any business in people's healthcare choices. I've been a strong proponent of a woman's right to choose and make decisions about her own body. I was a supporter of the amendment here in California, the constitutional amendment to protect that right for women. And frankly, Congress ought to adopt Roe v. Wade as the law of the land. It's inexcusable what's going on back there. And for decades, for most of my lifetime, women have not had to live in fear in this country. Not have those rights stripped from them with respect to their own health care. And that's what Congress ought to take that easy step right now, right away, and return us to the non-chaotic world we had before the Dobbs decision. We've seen terrible atrocities in some of these states and mean-spirited, frankly, legislation throughout the country. And people shouldn't be treated differently in Alabama than California or in the halls of our nation's capital.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up right and finish the question. The second part of your question is what would I do to ensure women's rights? And I stated I think abortion is a state's issue and California's handling it just fine. But on a federal level, what could be done is to give the FDA to approve contraception for females over the counter. Readily available over the counter for males. Women have to jump through hoops. I think that, a lot of that would help with unwanted pregnancies, and we wouldn't have so much debate over the abortion issue if we just allowed for over-the-counter access to all the foods.
Let's stay with you for a minute, Mr. Wozniak. Since you have money, it's a little bit easier than asking that before this went on. Do you support any of the candidates for the presumptive nominees for president, whether it be any of the Republican candidates or any of the Democratic candidates, specifically President Biden?
No. No, I'm actually would throw my support, and I hope it reaches the ballot with the Lead People Party, but RFK Jr. Has really developed a platform that seems a lot in line with people who are on that end of the spectrum, like me. You're going to take some good things from the left and take some good things from the right. And you're going to see the problems in both. And it's that a la carte platform that allows so much more flexibility. So, no. Trump, no. Biden, no. But I will throw my support behind RFK.
Mr. Barkley, same question.
RFK Jr., the anti-vaccine nut. Do you want to support him? I support Joe Biden. He's done a good job, even with an ineffective Congress in the last year or so. And that's the answer I think you asked for.
And the same, Mr.
I'd support Joe Biden.
Why?
He shares the values actually investing in this country. Right? During the first Biden administration, we've seen passage of the Infrastructure Act. We've seen the CHIPS Act, which actually seeks to bring jobs back to this country relative to chip manufacturing. These are the kind of investments I want to see. Supports doing something about climate change, right? But doing it in a way where we're actually making investments in renewable energy, making investments in the infrastructure we need as we get more electric cars in the vehicle. These are all things that are both good to achieve important public policy goals over the long run, but that also create jobs right here at home. And that's frankly what we've got to be doing here in the San Joaquin Valley. Beyond that, the other choices are an absolute no for me. So Joe Biden would be my choice for president.
Ms. Mark, can you care to elaborate a little bit more? You did say Joe Biden. Were you specific enough in your answer?
Well, like Adam said, he's done a lot over the last few years up until we lost the House of Representatives. But Joe has a lot of experience, especially in diplomacy, and he manages to work very well with many other countries, although the present quagmire in Gaza has him kind of entangled. He sees his way out of that, and he's working on them, and it takes a lot of effort for that. But yes, he's done a lot for the economy. Employment is up, unemployment is down, the economy is prospering more and more every year, and there are a lot of people who need help, and he wants to help them. If he got a cooperative Congress, he could do that.
Well, let's hold it. No. Let's stay with you. Let's stay with you for a moment. Before we bounce it back down the line. For the record, I'm not a fan of these one mic setups. It's very clunky as well.
We can handle it.
I would think this is nothing in comparison to being a congressman, so I hope you can.
Each of us.
Well, let's talk a little bit about immigration.
In his platform in 2016, Bernie Sanders had what I believe to be the most fair handling of immigration. I went looking for it on the website the other day, and it's often there. But giving the DACA folks an adequate path to citizenship, improving our legal representation of the people who come looking for asylum, not murdering them with razor wire at the border, but we do need to figure out a way to reduce the need for them to come here. Some of those countries, like in Central America, have been hit by climate change and have suffered, had their agricultural base suffered terribly because of it. So it's climate change that's added to the mix for what we need to do to protect on immigration. Beyond that, it turns out that we actually need a lot of those people to do the jobs that the other folks won't do. On the end, which brings a different problem. We don't have enough housing for them because we don't have enough housing for everybody. So we need to solve that problem as well. Everything ties in. So we need to work on those things, and Joe Biden cares about these things.
Okay. Ms. Wisely asking the question regarding immigration.
Yes, we do have a problem. And it's not for the one that most people point to, but it's a simple matter of, if you have an influx to the population that we've had, I've seen estimates between 2 million and 8 million over the last 3 years into that. 2 million, 8 million people is going to require a lot more infrastructure, like Mike pointed out, more housing, more schools, more hospitals, more staff levels. And the influx is coming too fast for this country to actually adapt to it. I'm not anti-immigration, but there should be a cap so that we can better manage that growth of infrastructure, to accommodate for a growing population. You can't just, rush all at once and expect things. It is creating chaos, as he said. We have a housing crisis already. The affordable housing for regular masses. And this is just putting a bigger strain on the infrastructure. So I would like to see a cap on it. And I would like to see a better managed approach to integrate them. Now, as far as the DAC, I've talked to a lot of the dreamers, and it's deferred. So there is no clear path to citizenship for these people. These people came here at age 2, they have no documents, and basically the only thing they do now is they go to the USCIS office every 2 years and have to convince them not to deport them. They're not getting any closer to a green card. They're not getting any closer to citizenship. They're just being told every 2 years, well, okay, you're clear, we're going to defer this, we're going to kick this can down the road 2 more years. And I think that's absolutely horrible. I mean, these people have done nothing wrong, and no child should pay for the sins of their parents, even if immigration would be considered sin by some. These people have been good, upstanding Americans and citizens of our community, and the fact that they just keep getting kicked down the road about 2 years.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Okay.
You know, immigration's been treated like a political football for decades. And we just recently saw it with the U.S. Senate coming to a somewhat comprehensive immigration reform bill that nobody was entirely happy with. It didn't address all the concerns on either side of the debate, but would have made our border more secure and would have moved our immigration process in the right direction. And because one political candidate in this country said it wasn't in his political interest, we saw his political army, which apparently is every member of Congress these days, take a 180-degree turn the other direction and the bill died. It wasn't brought up for a vote. Immigration, we need to stop talking about a secure border and a humane and improved immigration process as if they're about to be changed. We can have a secure border and we can make improvements to the process. We should absolutely find a way for amnesty and path to citizenship for dreamers and other folks in this country. Ronald Reagan had this right, Republican president and governor of California decades ago. And so what we need to do is fire the Congress that's refusing to do their job. Their job is not to keep their job. Their job is to do their job. And they failed to do it this last week, and they're going to fail going forward if we don't put new voices in Congress.
If I understood Mr. Gray, I just wrote down that he mentioned amnesty and a path to citizenship. How do you think that work, particularly in this political climate?
Well, I think we had a bill that worked in the U.S. Senate. And again, that didn't include amnesty. It didn't include any action impacting the dreamers. I'd like to see us take bolder action in the future, but I would have moved forward with progress. I would have committed to voting for a bill that was going to make our border more secure and make our immigration process work better. You don't have to solve the whole problem to solve part of the problem. And what we have in Congress right now is people drawing lines in the sand on both sides that they, to your point, know won't work, that the politics don't match up, and nothing gets done.
So define bolder for us. You said bolder action.
Bolder action.
Yeah, define that for us.
I'd like to see a bill similar to the one in the U.S. Senate that included some protections for dreamers and a path to citizenship.
I'm good with that if you are.
Yeah,
Your answer.
Growing up in a community, a cultural community, made up of immigrants from all over the world, every one of our families. My own grandparents came here, not in the 1700s, in the 1900s, from Norway, Romania, France, and farmed. And immigrants are kind of the backbone and the lifeblood of this country. And we ought to take some action as bold as we can get, and don't let the perfect defeat the good.
Mr. Barclay, I think I just heard all of you mention affordable housing and various answers. What can a congressman do to help do that here in the Central Valley, and what needs to be done here in the Central Valley?
You got a half hour?
I do, but they don't.
Okay, I'll try and cram this into 2 minutes. Congress is at fault for the current housing problem both on homelessness and in the increasing cost. 1986 Tax Reform Act cut depreciation percentages and lengthened the depreciation time, identified passive income and put a limit on it, identified tax preference items, put a limit on it, and the construction of commercial apartments fell off a cliff. In Antigua, for instance, in the years before, 25 years before that, they built thousands of apartments. In the 25 years after that, they built 2 large complexes, one of which was already on the books in 1986. And also the savings and loan industry fell off a cliff with the savings and loan crisis that this brought on. In 1998, Congress passed the Faircloth Amendment. The Faircloth Amendment put an absolute cap on the number of subsidized housing units. You could build one, but you had to tear one down for everyone you built. And at the same time, Congress cut subsidies for housing. In 2008, everyone blamed subprime loans for the housing crash, and they put a freeze on that. And they passed Dodd-Frank, which killed it. So we're missing 37 years of apartment construction, 25 years of subsidized housing, 15 years of low-income housing loans. So the only thing left is sleeping bags and tents on the street for hundreds of thousands.
Time is up, sir. Mr. Wozniak, same housing question to you.
Again, I'd like to go for half an hour like mine. I can do that. There needs to be a partnership between states and the federal government on this issue. The one thing here on the housing, I actually am going to stand with the Green Party, who makes a big push for nodal development. Our urban sprawl, our urban development has made things so distant, it's making lots bigger, which has increased the cost of those housing lots. There could be much more sustainable housing built in nodal neighborhoods. And whether that's federal grants to local districts, especially around here, I would push for a federal grant. Develop a program where we could develop a nodal neighborhood with more compact, yes, it's more densely populated, but it is more efficient, more environmentally friendly and sustainable when you don't have such urban sprawl. And actually builds community too. Yeah, I definitely think our vision of urban development needs to completely be reimagined. Until we do that, we're going to be facing a lot of the same problems. We really need to convince the people that more nodal neighborhoods is the way to go.
I'm not going to ask you the same question, Mr. Bray. You had too much time to think about it and answer it. Let's talk about jobs, particularly in an agricultural rich area where a lot of the jobs in the field are low paying. What can a congressman do to help increase the number of fair jobs, or jobs that people can afford to buy a home, have a reasonable standard of living here in the Central Valley?
Well, I think part of that can be housing. This is one of the fastest growing regions in the state, and a lot of opportunity to build housing, but we've got to invest in our workforce. I spoke to an AP history class at Belmont High School about a year and a half ago. They were asking about jobs as it relates to housing, and I asked, how many folks in this room are going to be carpenters? Raise your hand. How many folks are going to be electricians? How many are planning on being a plumber? Right? We've got to invest in the workforce to create the economic opportunities. That's why we brought a University of California to the Valley with the building of UC Merced, and now we're working on a medical school education program. The building that used to house my family's dairy supply feed store business now has an engineering firm with UC Merced engineering graduates that are working on ag tech solutions, creating good paying jobs. Right? And so it's these kinds of investments in renewable energy. Right? The valley in our agricultural economy has endless opportunities for new industries, frankly, in renewable energy. There's a company in Merced that takes almond hulls and almond shells and converts it into fertilizer and nutrients from the ground, actually reduces carbon out of the atmosphere. So, too short a time to answer this question, but there are endless opportunities to create new industries and new jobs here in the Valley with the right investments.
Is it almonds or almonds?
Depends if you've knocked the hell out of it or not.
All right, I think we have time probably for one more question before going to closing statements. Oh, one. All right, we'll start with Mr. Barkley. How will you help veterans in this county specifically?
Well, there's a measure on the ballot called Measure 1. There's some argument about it. I'm tending to vote for it at the moment, but I am a Navy vet, and I am always looking for opportunities to improve things for veterans, improving health care, especially with the VA, and an eternal morass of bureaucracy is unable to seem to handle that. But we need to keep whacking away at it until we get it right. The problem I'm hearing with Measure 1 out of Fresno is they're complaining about it removing mental health resources and putting it into veterans housing. I don't think that's the right approach if that's what's happening. But yes, I would like to see more funding for veterans care and for mental health. That kind of evades your question. But money seems to solve a lot of problems. So more money for veterans, yes.
You're an accountant, right?
Yes. And a lawyer. So I can write the laws, and an accountant, I can tell you what it costs. And a programmer, I can tell you where the data is.
Same question, please.
Same question, helping the veterans in the Valley. Yeah, there is a huge, obviously we know about the problems with the VA. It needs more funding, it needs more staff. But in the meantime, it disgusts me to see anybody that's struggling. They come from serving this country, and there's some that are homeless. There's some that have mental health problems, including PTSD or such things occurred during their service. And yet, they sit there while we build all these homeless shelters, return hotels, and living spaces for the homeless. And the veterans are still out there. These people should be front of the line. It shouldn't be a question. They should not have to wait like anybody else. They are more than paid their dues to this country, and I think they should be moved to the front of the line. If the VA is understaffed, these people should be moved to the front of the line at whatever local hospital they can have. There should be no reason to make them wait, no reason to make them suffer any more than they have. After what they've given us, the least they can do. I know Kelly's here, someone did tell me about HR Heroes Act 4334. Yes, I did read up on that, and that will help alleviate some of the harm while they're in service, so they can better cope and adapt to civilian life after they're done with that. And I guess I would vote for that in a heartbeat, as I told her, it's a shame it's not even a law yet. It makes too much sense.
Same question.
Not changing up on you, isn't it?
Not yet.
Keep your eye on the feet. Well, when I was in the legislature, I wrote a couple of things that specifically come to mind. I wrote legislation to eliminate taxes on veterans' retirement pay. That's a policy I'd like to see every state in this country adopt. Another piece of legislation I wrote and sought to pass was to take the expertise of our veteran community, whether they were a firefighter, a police officer, whatever their career was in the military, and reduce the barriers to entry into states and licensing requirements so that veterans can come home and get right back to work in the private sector. These are the kind of policies that, frankly, we ought to be adopting at the federal level and working with states to make sure that every veteran can come home and do a good job. That's in addition to greater support for health care at veterans' homes and really just supporting these folks that put their lives on the line to protect our country. And I don't think there's any end we shouldn't go to respect and support our veteran community.
I'm going to stay with you for our next submitted question. How is the workforce supposed to work for our disadvantaged population of youth when there's a school-to-prison pipeline?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't catch the first one.
How is the workforce supposed to work for our disadvantaged population of youth when there's a school-to-prison pipeline?
Well, what we need to start having is a pipeline into the economic growth that we want, that we need. Right? And in our legislature, we help to fund the Volt Institute right here in Bedford, which is a job training program. We need more of a nexus between the jobs of the future and the jobs that are necessary for the economy. We have a shortage of teachers. We have a shortage of construction workers. We have a shortage of engineers. With all this need in the workforce, why are we not doing more to align young people, people from disadvantaged backgrounds, etc., into these professions, right? Getting them the right education, the right training, to put them to work in all our communities. The needs are endless, and we've got young people coming up ready to do this work, but I think we have to do a much better job as a state, federal, and even local government at connecting young people and people from different backgrounds to these opportunities. Because there are great opportunities out there, and there is a need in the workforce across the board. And that's how we're going to solve energy, housing, and many of these other different issues.
Ms. Wozniak?
Same question, yes, it is basically providing you with hope. I don't know what's changed, but when I was in high school, we had a trade school nearby. And about 100 kids, they knew they weren't going to college, they weren't going to be doctors, medics. They left on a bus every morning, showed up later in the afternoon. They went to trade school, and they did apprenticeships in, auto shop, plumbing, electricity, or electrical engineering, whatever. And those kids came out of high school ready to work. They knew they had guaranteed jobs. Age 18. The rest of us were going off to college. We were clueless. Kids were going off to the military scared. Those guys, they had a good life ahead of them. And if you can just give those kids that hope, and I think we really should institute programs where we offer these apprenticeships, paid apprenticeships even, to these 16-year-olds, where they see, hey, there's hope of having a good life. I can support a family. I can provide a family. I don't need to resort to a gang life or a criminal life and just end up in prison. And it would, I believe, alleviate a lot of that. It would alleviate a lot of poverty, it would alleviate a lot of crime. Just give those kids hope and an image in their mind they can see the future can be bright.
Ms. Barkley, now you get the curveball. Where do you stand on the war in Gaza?
I think it's outrageous. Another half hour?
More like another 84 seconds.
Okay. I'm at the point where I would like to see, as a condition of our aid to Israel, 2 committees set up in Israel. One to handle requests for reparations and restoration of full citizenship for persons who have immigrated out of Israel, and the second one to handle any complaints of racism or religious bigotry in the oppression of people who have been or live in the current limits of Israel, and to award damages or to levy fines against the parties conducting such racist activities. And that would probably put a big credit in it.
Mr. Red, we'll skip you. I'll get back to you in a second. Where do you stand on the war in Gaza?
The war is just a horrific thing, no matter where it's going. Certainly what we're seeing happen in the conflict between Israel and Gaza and Hamas in Gaza is heartbreaking. Right? It doesn't necessarily change how we need to advocate for the end of the war, a ceasefire. The U.S. has consistently, the President and other diplomatic officials consistently called for a halt to violence, a ceasefire, diplomatic solutions. At the same time, we've honored our alliance with Israel and our support for an ally, which is important. I think too often we don't talk enough about this, that the United States honor the word in the world has to mean something. It has to mean something when we make commitments to climate accords. It has to mean something when we make commitments to NATO and Israel and other allies. And at the same time, that doesn't preclude us from, I think, showing moral leadership in the world, trying to reduce the violence in what has been just an absolute horrific conflict.
And you, Mr. Watson?
You consider me a peace candidate. There is no sense in any of it, really. Unless it's one of defense against your own family. You get in trenches, you fight. Outside of the U.S., none of these concerns. Not off another. Is Hamas evil? Yes, real terrorists. Israel's gone from a despicable apartheid state to a repugnant genocidal state. And you know what? We owe them nothing. I mean, they've just been, determined by the International Court of Justice. They were committing genocidal acts in Palestine. And I would not offer a single dollar of support more to them, or vote for a single dollar of support to Israel until they show. And that's how you bring them to the peace table. They keep putting out the two-state solution because the U.S. just keeps putting money and bombs in their back pocket. And they just keep using them, and there's no leverage, there's no incentive for them to even get to the peace table. Because they know they've got us backing them. And I say we stop that, and we force peace. Instead of spending trillions on war, we'd spend a lot less on peace. And in the long run, we'll be better for ourselves.
I was going to thank you, sir, for what will be our final question before closing statements. I'm going to paraphrase this a bit question. What can Congress do to hold educators responsible or accountable?
Congress? I honestly don't think that's Congress's job, to be honest with you. Education should be more determined on a local level. That's why we have school boards, right? I believe the teachers should be more freedom. I think one of the biggest jokes to education in recent years has been the mandatory institutional common core. It's really hamstrung. I talked to a lot of teachers. It's kind of hamstrung. They have to teach certain new ways and certain new methods, and not every student gets them, and it causes a lot of confusion. And you know what? Just go back. This is what your kids need to learn by the end of the year. Do it however you see fit. That's why these people are educated. They're education degrees. They're experienced teachers. They know better than some bureaucrats in Washington what's going on. So I seriously don't think Congress should have anything to do with local education.
Ms. Barkley?
Accountable for what?
Accountable for the poor level of education that stands for county.
Well, I think we can go back to Prop 13 for part of that. We used to have some of the finest education in the world in California counties, and voters like me passed Prop 13 and got into financing for the local agencies. Money is what it takes. So Congress can award more funding for education, and that would help.
Okay. All right, I think we're close to time. So actually we're going to go to closing statements. We have 2 minutes, and we'll start with Mr. Gray.
Well, thank you for the lively discussion and engagement this evening on my campaign for Congress and the future of our community. This is a wonderful place, the San Joaquin Valley. And I've spent my entire life here, growing up in the community percent. Agriculture has been a big part of my life, and a big part of the lives of many people in this valley. But we're a growing community. We're diversifying our economy, and we're growing in elections. And there's so much opportunity here. But we need to send a message to Washington, D.C. 10 years in the state legislature, I had a bit of a reputation for being somewhat independent or a maverick. I was always most proud that I had a 100% voting record with nobody. You don't hear that in politics these days. Most people are busy pandering to some group or another. I'm 100% this, I'm 100% that. What I am is 100% thoughtful. I'll go to Congress. I will work diligently every day for you. And I will be willing to make compromises with others to get things done, to improve education, improve healthcare, improve our environment, to protect our water, to protect our community, to make sure that we have safe communities and good schools. That's the work, that's the job. And what's happening in Congress right now is an absolute embarrassment to our country. And I think whether you're a Democrat or Republican or independent, a liberal or conservative or moderate, I think we can all agree that having folks act like high school children, literally engaging in physical altercations, name-calling, and refusing to sit down and actually work on the tough issues. If they were easy to solve, they'd have been solved, right? They're tough issues, and they're tough issues every day, and it's an evolving discussion, but we need people that are serious about the job. I'm proud of my record in the state legislature, and I appreciate your support and your vote in this election.
Mr. Wozniak?
You know, I've learned when people talk about a bipartisan agreement in Washington, it's never good news because it means one of two things. Both parties agree on. Either we're paying for a lot of bombs to destroy some other foreign country, or we're bailing out some huge billion-trillion-dollar industry. Neither one of those helps you. Neither one of those makes your life better. Neither one of those makes you're safer. And yet they brag that that's the things they agree on. The things that matter to you, none of them can agree on. Because they're beholden to the big money interests. I have no loyalty to the parties. I have nobody to answer to. I don't get problems in the principal's office, like I said earlier. I go to Washington, I have one boss, and that's you guys. And I hope you'll realize that, and I'd like to say, put people before party. That's really what I'm speaking about here.
Mr. Barkley?
My name is Mike Barkley. I'm running for Congress in District 5, which is this district right here. As is Steve, the third guy running in District 5, is not here today. He only goes to country clubs, and he doesn't vote for what you people want. He votes no on all of the things that matter to us. But he does win elections. So in March 5th and November 5th, Steve or I need your vote. My webpage is at mikebarkleyforcongress.com. That's the number 4. On there is my short platform. You push the button on the top, it'll take you to the long platform. The rest of my platform includes restoring voting rights, strengthening labor, and bringing the jobs back to this country, reverse global warming, reverse the Trump tax cut, and balance the budget, add Medicare for all, add 43 million acre-feet of storage, and solve the drought and flood problems in California and the entire Southwest, and of course, solve our gun problems. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, we're going to get started with our next candidate. This is Jessica Self, who is the challenger in State Assembly for District 22. The incumbent, Juan Albiz, is not here tonight. He is in session. The Assembly is in session. His representative, Justin Farkas, is at the table in the back. If anyone has any questions, then feel free to follow up with him afterwards. Since Mrs. Self is here alone, we're going to have more of a free-flowing conversation. We'll also ask for questions to be submitted. Someone from the NAACP should be walking around taking the cards, and we'll address those as well.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jessica Self, and I am running to represent all of you as the next California State Assembly member of District 22. And I'm very excited to be here tonight. I want to thank the NAACP and the ACLU for having me, and for all of you taking time out of your busy schedules, because this matters. It absolutely matters who we elect, who we send to Sacramento, who we send to Washington, D.C. And I know that it's hard, especially with all of the news that we hear, that is all, depressing right now, and it's hard to handle, for us to stay involved, to stay civic-minded, but it matters, and so I really appreciate you being here. I am running very simply to improve the everyday lives of our citizens here in District 22. What I mean by that is our kids, we should not have to check every morning what the asthma rating we send our kids out to play sports. We should have the highest class of education that California was previously known for. We should have affordable and equitable health care for all of our residents. People should be able to afford to live here, to either rent, and at some point to afford to buy a house here where they work. And finally, we should have good jobs with benefits, good jobs that allow you to call in sick and not be fired, and good jobs that allow you to retire with dignity. This isn't too much to ask, it's what we should be demanding from our representatives, and I absolutely will be the person who brings these things home to our district. So I thank you again for being here, and I look forward to answering your questions.
All right, you covered quite a bit of ground in that opening statement. Let's start with your legislative priorities for District 22. What would those be?
Absolutely. So I just listed some of them, but right now it is almost impossible for a person to enter the workforce here in our district and find housing. If you live here, you are rooming with others. We have many families who are living 2 and 3 families inside of a single family dwelling. People cannot get on their feet. They cannot afford apartments. We have studio apartments going for $2,000 and above, while our median income has not increased since the late 70s. That is unbelievably unacceptable. The problem here is that, and I know that Mayor Zwahlen has spoken on this a number of times, is that we have stopped building. There was a huge push for us to stop building mixed-use apartments and low-income housing. And there's this idea that if we do that, somehow that stops us from being this agricultural, beautiful community. But that's not accurate. We need to build smarter. We need urban mixed housing, so we need apartments on top, we need stores and shops and restaurants on the bottom. We shouldn't be growing out like the original Village One's ideas where we have a store and then a neighborhood. We should be building this urban center that we have here downtown, and with other locations like this so folks can walk to work, bike to work, so that they can actually live in the community that they work. We shouldn't have all of the employees from Gallo who have college educations, who have money to spend leaving our community in order to go and live in the Bay because they don't want to go to our schools, because they don't want to live in our housing. That's unacceptable. We need to work on housing first.
I want to follow up on that housing thread. Every time a proposal for mixed-use housing comes up in the state legislatures, it gets shot down. Every time someone proposes infill projects, developers often shoot those down because they don't pencil out or because of infrastructure needs. What can be done at the state level to change that so that some of those things could actually happen?
Absolutely. And it's really interesting as a legislator for the state of California is that I'm here to represent you and our needs here. But being in the legislature, you're looking at folks who also have the needs of their community to take into consideration. And so the idea is that you need to have leverage to work with those folks, and you need to be able to actually get something accomplished. I will be going to Sacramento as a Democrat, which, whether you like that or not, is the current majority party in the state of California. I have the ability to work with other groups to get things accomplished that my opponent cannot. Additionally, when we talk about mixed-use housing being shot down, that's because, as you mentioned, developers, it doesn't make financial sense for them to go in and do these types of buildings. What we need to do is incentivize that type of growth, and we need to make it easier in California for folks to build, especially in these urban centers that will allow folks to get out of homeless situations, out of multifamily situations, out of sleeping in their car, and into apartments, condominiums, and low-income housing. That absolutely has to be a priority, and the way that we do that is by incentivizing. That can be through grants. There's also a labor part of this right now where the building trades, who's one of my biggest supporters, the California State Labor Trades, they are actually working with private developers in order to meet the subsidized requirements for state building in order to do these types of mixed housing that we require. So partnerships like that and a person who can actually effectuate those plans.
Okay. Incentives. Who pays? Where's that money come from?
So, as all of you are aware, California, we have very high taxes. We're the highest tax in our country. And there used to be this saying, I was originally raised in Simi Valley, California, which is Ronald Reagan land. I grew up on the Ronald Reagan Freeway with the Ronald Reagan Library, and I can tell you that I grew up in a really conservative community. And the idea and something that people used to say was that we had the golden rule. Now, this is not the golden rule as do unto you as you would do down to you. The golden rule here was that you pay a lot of taxes, and you have the best schools, and you have housing, and you have the best green parks and places to go, and you have the best water and the best environment, and you have clean beaches, and you have the ability to live a really great life in California. We are failing that golden rule. So we're still paying all those taxes, but we're not seeing them come back home. Both Merced and San Joaquin County, for every single dollar that they pay out in taxes, so you and I pay $1, Merced and San Joaquin are getting almost double of that back to their community. We're not. We need someone in Sacramento advocating to take our tax money back and pour it back into our district.
So, one thing you mentioned there, you're seeing that those other two counties, San Joaquin and Merced, they're getting money back because of pork or because their legislators are bringing that money back?
Absolutely. So you look at Senator Susan Bateman, who used to be an assembly member for part of our community. During the redistricting, we actually lost her. She's brought back a ton of money in terms of mental health services, in terms of additional police force, additional green, new technology. She brought those things back. We have in Merced, we have Esmeralda Soria, who's doing an amazing job. She just received a number of grants. And these aren't grants. I've heard multiple times that grants have been awarded to our current legislature. Those grants were already applied for by our city of Modesto and the city library, so I think that's a bit disingenuous. But I will say that when you look at a legislator who is actually effective, whether, we can debate all day long about different things that you like, and that's what I like doing. I want to hear from everyone, and I want to come up with the best solutions. But unless you're actually able to do those things and bring the bacon home, then you're not doing anything.
I have a submitted question. You spoke about bringing good jobs to this area along with affordable housing. The need here, as anywhere else, the problem is the requirements to work here. The bar keeps getting higher, and the opportunities to reach those standards are not available here. So I think based on that, the question is, again, what can be done to change that? And what, if you're in this office, could you specifically do to affect change there?
So right now, I think part of the answer, these are complicated questions, right? They're questions with nuance, and that's why, if I went to have a surgery, I would want the doctor who knew the most, who was the most experienced, and had done their homework. And that is what you'll get from me. So I would love to talk to you, to hear from you from these various constituencies before I take on projects. But in this case, we all know the answer. We are failing our students. We have an education gap here that when our students graduate high school, they aren't necessarily prepared for the jobs that are going to give them pay to live here. And so we need to be doing a better job for our students, not only in our K through 12 education system, but we need to bring back electives. We need to, I love it. Math is extremely important, and we need kids to be going on and learning higher level math, but we should go back to woodshop. We need to also be have trade schools. We need vocational in high school. Kids should know how to balance a checkbook before they get out of high school. We need to go back and actually have vocational, technical, and trade schools. And the unions, they are chomping at the bit to be in these types of partnerships. I am endorsed by the California Labor Federation, representing almost every single labor organization in the entire state. I'm one of their priority candidates because I know that when labor, business, and our schools work together, we can close that gap. And then our students have a fighting chance to have jobs here that allow them to stay here. So our kids stop going to school and staying wherever they're at. We need to give them the jobs and the community they want to come home for.
Are you familiar with Proposition 1?
I am very familiar with it.
What's your stance on that? Are you a supporter? Do you oppose it?
I'm a supporter of Proposition 1. I know that there are some opposition to Proposition 1, even from some very close friends of mine. I will tell you that Susan Aigman, again, a proponent, a strong supporter of mine, who was our assembly member, like I mentioned, she was a social worker for her entire career. I have worked for the government. I'm a county attorney. Right now, I advocate for children and families in our county, and I've always worked with vulnerable communities as an advocate. And I will tell you that as people on the ground, we know that our mental health system is currently failing those folks who need it the most. We have gaps in services, and this is not because of the personnel. I meet every single day. I know the director of Salvation Army, who almost every single week is posting on social media how he may quit, how he doesn't even take this anymore. The same thing goes for our mental health workers. workers. We are working these folks to the bones. We are not giving them a program that actually works or meets the needs of their constituents, and it is causing burnout left and right, and it's not solving the problem. Proposition 1 is not just for veterans, but it will focus housing for veterans. Proposition 1 is actually a full reprogramming of our mental health system as well as our homeless system. And I really want to answer this question, so maybe this can count as 2 because I don't want to go over time. But this is really, really, really important. This is one of the foundations of my campaign.
Well, I already have a follow-up for you.
Okay, so really quickly, it's mental health and it's homelessness. Right now, the counties are all doing various things. They take the money. So I don't want to, she's the boss.
Well, here's a question. For you. Continue to follow this a little further.
I might need 2 follow-ups since we're playing it loose.
Well, we'll see. You said you were an attorney, right? We doing arguments now?
Yeah, closing arguments are always happening.
Here's a question. Does Prop 1 give up too much control to the state and too much money and control of money that would go to the counties, to the state?
Not in my opinion at all. And so essentially what we have right now is if I had $50, okay, and I gave $10 of that to each of 5 counties, okay, and I said, please do your best to spend this money. And each of the counties went out, and let's say with their best intentions, they all tried to do things correctly. And we have amazing nonprofit groups. We have LGBTQ+ services in our community. We have smaller groups like the Pure Art Recovery Project downtown that are really serving people, and no one should be gutting those programs. That's not the point. But if we're all doing separate things, and there's no one who actually is in charge of accountability, when it comes down to people voting and saying, where is my money going? Where did that $10 go when I still see folks sleeping on the ground, when I see people who have serious mental health crisis going on in our community, serious drug abuse, we have fentanyl deaths on the rise in our community, where did my $10 go, right? And we don't have accountability, and we're not seeing the solutions that should come with the amount of money that we're spending. So the state program doesn't actually change any ability for those small groups to continue that great work, but it gives us some structure and some accountability. Also, as many Democrats will say regularly, Reagan gutted our mental health system in the 1980s. That's a common thing that you hear, and it's totally true. And the thing is that in our community, we do not have a psychiatric facility in our community. So our ERs, as Mayor Zwahlen, as a long-time emergency room nurse will tell you, that's our only mental health crisis service right now in our community. And that's unacceptable, it's inhumane, and it's not cost-effective.
Okay. Let's leave Prop 1 for a second and jump back to something that you mentioned. You mentioned affordable housing. We always hear about affordable housing and doing this and that. What does that look like to you?
Affordable, when I first moved here, I would go to downtown. I would get my hair cut.
How long ago?
11 years. Okay. So I'm not from this community. I moved here and I loved it, and I decided to stay, and I brought my husband here, my parents here, I brought my grandparents here. I love it here because I see endless potential in our community. And I used to come downtown a lot. My hairdresser was down here, I worked downtown, I would get lunch downtown, and I always wondered why no one lived downtown. Why don't we have apartments? Why is the DoubleTree the only tall building in our entire city now except for our courthouse? Why is this? We're the only urban area where we're trying really hard to fight urban sprawl, right? We don't want houses going out and going into our agricultural areas and taking that cultural away, but also that money, right? We're based on agriculture, and we need to be boosting up those jobs in that system. We need housing to be developed in an urban mentality. We need it to be walkable, shoppable. We need folks to want to live in these areas because they can be affordable, but they can range from affordability to really high end. We have no downtown living whatsoever in any of our city areas. Brixmore is a highway, right? It's insane to me that we're too free to just get to like Target, right? You're just driving all this way. That is not how cities of our size should be operated. Cities of our size should have shopping, housing, right? And that does not take away anything from our agricultural community whatsoever.
Is that something within control at the state level or something that's controlled at a local level?
It's both. So our city council's done an excellent job with this. They actually have, and I don't want to take away all of Sue's talking points, so she's a great nurse, and she's done this awesome zoning job that I'm about to mention. But they just changed the zoning rules out for Yosemite, which is a great place for us to be developing, right? That helps those local businesses that have been there forever that are struggling. So we can develop there. There's mixed use that they've just changed. There's several areas where local, our zoning project, our planning commission, and our city council can handle. But at the state level, we can make it easier to build here. We are in charge of a lot of the restrictions, a lot of the covenants, and a lot of the requirements for both developers and our labor unions to work. And so from my perspective, and I have a great working relationship with both our county, where I'm an employee, as well as each of the cities in this district. And when you have that kind of a relationship, you can then work with developers and your legislature to make it easier to develop. Less red tape without cutting any green tape. Less red tape, more affordable. You get developers in here where it makes sense to them. It makes financial sense. You can't ask businesses to do things and not make money. That's the point of business, right? But we need it to make sense for our community, and urban growth, smart urban growth, has to be where we go. We don't have anywhere else.
Real quick, I don't know if you mentioned this earlier, for the audience, would you just review the type of public service or the types of community offices that you've had?
Yes, so actually, just because we're here, I was on the board of the local ACLU. Previously, I was a board member of of Mo Pride, which is one of our local LGBTQ plus advocacy groups and nonprofit. I was the vice president of the Stanislaus County Commission for Women, which is one of our oldest nonprofits. It awards the Women of the Year each year and provides substantial scholarships to young women in our community. I was also on the board of the Stanislaus Humane Society. I'm obsessed with dogs and rescuing dogs. I was the chair of the Democratic Party. I was also the president and vice president of the Central Valley Democratic Party, who brought the congressional debates to our local community, as well as the Gallo Center, where we hosted our congressional candidates, including Josh Harder, to a sellout crowd. And at this exact moment, that's what I can recall. But I just, because my time's not up, I love this place. I love living here. And when I moved here, folks, from where I had come from said, okay, your family's here. I'm very close to my family. And I said, fine, I'm not leaving here. I love it. I love it here, and I'll leave everyone here. I'm still working on my brother. But everyone else is here because this place is great. This place is gorgeous. The people here are amazing. Modesto is the city of great neighbors. And I found my place here, my home. And now I want to make good on that and do a great job for you.
Okay, so again, for the audience, where did you move here from?
I moved here directly from San Diego County, where I was a council aide for a city council member. I went to law school in Orange County. I went to college at UC Santa Barbara, but I was actually born in Fresno. I'm supposed to mention that first, right? I'm from the Valley. My parents met at Fresno State at a football game. All of my grandparents, all of my uncles went to Fresno State, and I was the black sheep when I decided to go to UC Santa Barbara. But I went to college in Santa Barbara, law school in Orange County, met my husband, who's a veteran of the Marine Corps, so he was in Oceanside, where Camp Pendleton is, and then we moved from there to here.
Have you held any other elective offices?
I was elected as the chair of the Central Committee, which is for the Democratic Party, which is an elected position. I was also elected to be on that committee by the general public, and I was an elected member of the State Democratic Party, and I was a national representative in 2016. As far as elected legislative or council or school board, no, I have not.
Okay. And real quick, because the Central Valley, including Modesto, Central Valley, is often looked at as the flyover portion of the state, San Diego, Sacramento, where in between no one comes here, until they want votes. What can be done, or what could you do to sort of change that so that more what happens here matters, so that money that's going in other areas actually comes back to Modesto, to Stanislaus?
We are important, and it's very funny because, again, when I moved here, I would talk to people who lived here who would say, we're not important. And they would say, oh, no one's going to come. And that was news to me. And so I said, well, why not? It seems like we could just make them come, right? We hold a lot of votes here, and we have a lot of money. We have a rich history. We were able to bring presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg here to a sold-out crowd in Turlock because I made connections with his campaign, and I explained that his path to winning the state of California ran right through the Central Valley. And the governor's path in the next election will run right through the Central Valley. We absolutely are the last place in California here, and I think like East Riverside, East San Bernardino, where our future is undefined. We could be the biopharmacy capital of the world. We could be the next Silicon Valley with great internet or tech jobs. And so because of that, folks need to know, and they need to come here, because without us, the future of California, we feed everyone. We are the agricultural center of the entire world, and that's going to be more and more difficult as time goes on with climate change. And we're the focal point there. And so I'm not from the idea, oh, people won't come here. I don't have that mentality. It's not something that I came here with, so I wasn't raised thinking that we're unimportant. We are important, and we just need to make folks know that with our votes.
Do you support whatever the word is now, conveyance, Delta tunnels, system, whatever the word, to bring water from the north to the south in the state?
So I will be an advocate for you, for the voters here. And so something that is constantly said to me is like, oh, you're in a party. Well, most of us are in a political party because that's the way our country works. If it didn't, and we were like Europe and had 1,000, maybe I would be in the, I like blue dress party or whatever, something that was tailored exactly to me. We don't have that, and so I'm in the Democratic Party. But that doesn't mean that every single decision that Democrats make is something that I'm going to support. In this case, that's not the best idea for the Central Valley. The Central Valley is an agricultural hub. Not only is that our history, but it's our future. And so we need to be protecting the work that we do here, protecting the families and the income. But at the same time, there's absolutely no reason that these things need to be completely separate. Because we can't win that way. There's only a few votes here in the Central Valley in the state legislature. And we can use those effectively, but we also need to find ways where we can find common ground. And there are ways to find groundwater solutions in our community and ways to help the wildlife, help salmon, help our environmental causes. Those things don't need to come to a head. So I would work in the legislature to make sure that our valley and my district comes first in those issues.
And the final question I have for you, let's talk a little bit about questions. Let's talk a little bit about transportation. 99 is a mess. I-5, snarl, air quality, rail. What's the real answer in terms of high-speed rail, low-speed rail, Amtrak, road improvements? What should be done?
We need rail. I don't think anyone disagrees with that, and it's just how do we get it? How do we afford it? How do we make it affordable for residents to not be paying out of pocket over and over again? And how do we have accountability for these projects? Many of these projects have already been written, they've been paid for, and there have been dates to start and dates to finish that have long come and gone. And when that happens, voters lose confidence in what we're doing. And they start thinking like, oh, these people are just wasting our money and they're not doing what we asked them to do, and that's totally accurate. And so we need to be able to hold builders, hold our trades accountable for those things because they're doing a great job. Whenever we have repairs like these, we bring money into our community, we bring great workers, labor, union jobs to our community to do these things, but we need to make sure that we're doing them intelligently, and a lot of this happens because when you have change in leadership, so when you have an assembly member, and you have these people and they talk about it, and they vote for something, but then 2 years later, there's some other people, and then there's a different governor, you have the project sort of stall and start and stall and start. Well, right now, we have a real chance to finish this. We have a real chance to make rail realistic and to assist with those our clogged arteries, right? Our clogged 99, our clogged 5 freeway. And we need to prioritize our region. A lot of times, like in Patterson, we weren't prioritized. Our community on the 5 wasn't prioritized over other areas on the 5. And that's just advocacy. That's advocacy in the state as your legislator. And I know Adam doesn't love the word fighting, but sometimes you have to fight for your community members to get what's owed to you.
Some more submitted questions. What is your plan for mental health treatment, and how would you fund it?
Right, so mental health, this is what Prop 1 is. This is a huge part of what Prop 1 is. This is a mental health overhaul. So I'm going to kind of section this into homelessness to kind of start the answer, and I'll come back. So right now we talk, how are we going to solve homelessness? How are we going to fix this problem? Right now we're just taking all of our money and we're just kind of like moving it as if all of these folks are the exact same person, and they're not. What we can do right now is take folks who are, most of our homeless population in our county work. They have jobs. They're living in cars, they're living with other family members, they're couch surfing, they're living 2 or 3 families to a location. We can immediately, those people people are already receiving services, often food stamps and children's services. We can immediately move those folks into housing with under like 40% of the money that we're currently spending. Get those folks, that's step one, right? Step two are folks who may be struggling with mental health and substance abuse, but with programming that is targeted to them, that is provided directly to them, they also, through housing, which we need housing first, so we can get them into low barrier housing, where they go into housing with the idea that they would step out of that into permanent housing. And then you get to the bottom part. And the bottom part is where we see, and this is where voters are talking about. We have people who are living, when you drive home right now, you will see folks, men and women, who are sleeping huddled up in front of businesses. I know Nick Guevara was here earlier, and he is still here, one of our council members. He has a business, and you have folks, that's not okay for business. It's not healthy. It's not humane to those individuals either. And so those people traditionally are who we're looking at mental health resources. And
Okay, so I have another question. How involved are you with the homeless in Modesto? Have you had conversations with them to hear their concerns? And if so, what are their concerns? And the second part of this question, maybe a little bit more time. How can we help affordable living?
so I've spent a ton of time working with homeless folks. My entire involvement as a county attorney, what the requirement was that you had to have not enough income to have other legal counsel. And my job now is to provide services to the majority of our customers are receiving either cash services, cash aid, or food stamps, or both. And I will tell you that their number one concern, A, is safety and where they will sleep tonight. But it's financial, it's food, but it's security. It is not safe to live on the streets. It is not safe to go into a shelter if you are transgender. It is not safe to go into a shelter that only allows you to leave your partner into a male-female situation where you don't feel safe. You've probably been victimized before, and potentially that's why you're in the situation. Every year I work on the homeless count in Stanislaus County. One of the questions is, did domestic violence or sexual violence cause you to be homeless? And a large portion of our female homeless population say yes. We have mental health, substance abuse. We have a ton of veterans. Right now, in the state of California, we have 171,000 people who are identified as homeless, and approximately, I don't want to say the number, 6% of those are homeless veterans. That's unacceptable. My husband and his entire family, both of my grandparents are veterans, and 100% we need to ensure that they are cared for, not cared for in a pat on the head, try to go to the VA where you're not able to get in. Our closest VA is in Palo Alto, get a ride there somehow, find a phone to call them, wait 3 months for your appointment, in the meantime don't have housing. That is not how we support veterans. So I've absolutely done a lot of work with our homeless population, and I know that this step process works. Every single homeless advocate you will talk to in our community will tell you the exact thing. We need to first, immediately, go get those folks that are the easiest to lift out of homelessness. Get them out of their cars, get them out of two-family homes, and get them into stable housing. They're the easiest to bring up, they're already working. And what we don't want is for them to go down to the next level, for them to lose their job because their car is not insured, for them to lose their job because they can't get a shower and get steady rides to work, to lose those jobs, and then fall down into the folks who are sleeping on the streets. We can lift them out, and we can work on substance use and mental health. And then Prop 1 is specifically for those folks that need additional help, and maybe they need help that they're not willing to receive right now. Maybe they need humane help that we have to give them in order to lift them out of that situation. That last group, that's what Prop 1 is specifically designed for. Those folks that we have not been able to come up with a solution for. This is the answer.
I'll add one thing, there is a number of French.
There is, however, you cannot get health services there. You can only get health services and living services if you go out to Palo Alto. I actually had a client waiting with an infection in his arm. The jail would not let him stay in the jail because he had such a bad infection. They took him to Doctor's Hospital. Doctor's Hospital treated him very well, did a great job. They released him. He now had no place to go, and the VA in Palo Alto, who was the next follow-up for him to get antibiotics, follow-up care, the stitches removed, told him he could come back in 4 months, and there was no way for him to get there. They told him if he could get there in 2 months, they could have him stay at a veteran's home. That is an unacceptable solution. So when I saw him, this had been infected. He was going back to the hospital, costing all of everyone's tax dollars. That's not humane treatment. That's disturbing, and our veterans deserve better than that.
Very let's move on to our closing remarks. 2 minutes.
Wow, that was a wide array of questions. I am passionate about these things. I believe them. I am not running for this position so that I can be in power or to rule or to have this impressive thing on my resume. I truly want to do this work for you. I've been a public servant forever. I came to this county to serve this community, and I've continued to do that every single day. I'm still working full-time for our community right now while running. I absolutely love it here. I'm not lying. If I was lying, I wouldn't have moved every single person I know here. I love it here because I see the humans that are here, and I know that we have potential to be this amazing place where our kids go to school here. They learn things, they learn arts, they learn general education, they learn the trades, and then they can afford to live here, right? I hear parents all the time, my kid's gone and now they're never coming back because we don't have jobs to entice them. We're not giving our kids the best education anymore, and that's not the teacher's fault. That's not our kids' fault. Our kids don't go to school and say, hey, I'd like to get a less good education than my friends in the Bay Area. No one is saying that. Our parents here deserve to have their kids have just as good an education, to have just as beautiful parks. We absolutely deserve to have better, but in order to get better, to get what we deserve, we have to send folks who, A, have come out and talked to you. I have been at all of your events. I know most of you because you have seen me at 1,000 things with you. When there have been protests, when you are having problems, I have been there. When you've asked me to advocate at the City Council or the Board of Supervisors, I have been there. I have listened to the community, I have worked out in the community, and I am the only person who is prepared on day one to actually get things done for this community. Not talk about it, but bring things home, because we cannot continue living like this. Our community deserves more. We need someone who can go get those things for you.
All right, thank you. Reminder of our ground rules, each candidate will get a 2-minute opening remarks and 2 minutes for closing as well. I'll be posing questions. They will have 90 seconds to respond. They will respond directly to me, not to each other. We have a moderated forum, not necessarily a back and forth debate. Timekeeper is in front. She will hold up a green sign when they begin their answer, a yellow sign to indicate 15 seconds remaining, and a red sign that means stop. And again, I don't mean to be rude, if I butt in, that means your time is up, maybe even a few more seconds there, but that's when it ends. And please, no personal attacks. We want to keep this nice and friendly and civil. With that, we'll start with opening remarks. We'll start with Mr. Jones.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jones. I'm running for Dewey.
Grab the mic.
Is that okay right there? Can we start over? Good afternoon, Modesto. My name is Sebastian Jones. As you know, I'm running and standing alone as Modesto mayor. I have for many years sit on many committees as the agent and veteran of a commission. I sit on the board of bills as a commissioner for many years. I am one of the longest members of the King Kennedy Board of Directors. I sit in 3 Latino community organizations in this town. Well over 10 years, most of them more than that. As a community activist, I deal with the Cambodian, the Asian, the Muslim. I break bread all over this town. running to make a difference because I deal with people. Well, over almost 20 years. As you know, it took me almost a quarter century to get a heart name Dr. Martin Luther King. But I stayed in it. And I got it. Even they didn't want to. But Mr. Jones stayed with me. I said,
Time.
thank you.
Mayor?
Thank you for hosting this forum. I'm Sue Zwahlen, and thank you for all of you for staying this late into the evening. Before I was elected mayor in 2021, our city leadership was consumed by infighting. As a lifelong resident of Modesto and emergency room nurse, I wanted to heal the dysfunction at City Hall so that we could be united in our efforts on public safety, job creation, homelessness, affordable housing, and the challenges that we were facing as a city. Today, I'm proud to say that our city leadership is united. We disagree on some things, but we respect each other and work together to find a path forward. One example of that is the passage of Measure H. Before I was elected, our city had a budget shortfall. Our council worked together along with a lot of dedicated community leaders, many dedicated community leaders, and we passed Measure H. Now we have over $39 million more per year in local funding that stays local and a balanced budget. That funding means improving safety in our neighborhoods, expanding advanced life support in our fire department, and improving our park equipment, pruning more city trees, and adding more forestry units. We're repaving our streets, you've noticed, I'm sure, fixing our sidewalks, and investing more to get people off the streets and into housing. One of the most important things about Measure H funding is ensuring transparency and equity in how the funds are distributed. On our city website, we have a map that identifies all of the projects that are funded by Measure H.
And you're at time. And Mr. Bedford, opening remarks.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, my name is Dewey Bedford, and I am running for mayor for City of Modesto. I am running for mayor because we all have some of the same concerns, some of the same questions that we've been asking for the last 4 years that we really have not gotten answers to. I'm giving my answers authentic. I do not have any scripts. I do not have pre-made answers because it's not been authentic to our citizens when they ask these questions. We are looking for new leadership to inspire our city. We've been talking about some of the same plans for the last 4 years, and these plans have not been working out for us. I wouldn't be here if they were. I am running because I am considered a new era of leadership. We're fostering new leaderships in the city of Modesto with bright ideas, new understandings for our communities where we can reach our youth. I am looking to take the city of Modesto to the next level. Thank you.
Question for Mr. Bedford and then for Mr. Jones. Are you attending council meetings?
That's for me?
Yes, sir.
I attended a couple of them. I'm not consistent in going to city council meetings.
Okay, as part of, I asked that question because as part of this, of someone showing interest in this office, I think the residents want to know what you're doing to prepare if you were elected, if you're looking at going to council meetings, if you understand the board dynamics, if you've even delved into the city budget.
It's a great question. I think by me being in my community helps me to prepare myself for what's needed. When I do go to city council, they're not really talking about the things that the biggest concerns of what the community is asking for. I'm hearing the concerns and the cries from outside instead of from the inside. Because when I do go to city council meetings, and then we have one of our citizens approach the mic and voice their concerns or ideas, one of the rules that set up a city council that they had no replies back. So it was hard for me to learn if the city was actually hearing what our citizens were talking about. So for my preparation, I have been a commissioner for over the last 5 years. So I do know some inner workings of the city. But my best preparation is with the community itself.
Quick follow. When was the last city council meeting that you actually attended?
Last month.
Okay. Mr. Jones, same question for you. The mic is coming towards you.
That is a good question. For the last 14 years, maybe 15, I don't keep count, Mr. Jones has been standing ground. I've been down discussing from homelessness to getting evicted and created a couple of things like they use some of my stuff they don't give me credit for, but they know they're great ideas. Me, I think it's your duty. If you're gonna run for office, like I went for city council, you must go down to the city council and know what's going on, the operation, how the city is functioning, and what council member is working for you and which one's not. Because a lot of them council members sitting down there, they just do. That's from experience. I've been through 4, but they're still there. Yeah, I think it's 4. They know Sebastian Jones like clockwork. And I speak openly. I'm sorry. If you want to get some done, speak it. Sometimes I have to give demonstrations. Sometimes I have to back the house out.
I'm sorry, that's time. So, I'm sorry, I'm unclear. So, are you attending meetings?
Yes, I attend.
Okay. When was the last council
The
meeting?
last meeting I was in, I would say, I think it was in December. I was there. Yeah, they sent my reports.
Okay, all right. Mayor Zwahlen, what's your view of the Civilian Oversight Committee?
I support it 100%, and it was our council that implemented the police review board and also the independent auditor. It was 3 years ago when I took office, and one of the first things that I did was bring this to the council. We initiated the Forward Together work group, of which some people here followed it very closely. This was a community group of people. We chose the organizations to be represented. It was about 25 to 27 organizations, and each organization chose their person to serve on this committee to represent their organization. It spread across the NAMI, the National Alliance for Mentally Ill. Our police officers association was involved, so we had officers involved as well as community members. They made the recommendation to go forward with our independent police auditor and community police review board, and I support it 100%. It was one of the goals that I had coming into this office, and I am so grateful that the residents of our community were on board and supported it. And I will say, of course, that this was all in light of what was happening at the time with the George Floyd incident, as well as our local officer-involved shootings. So we acted and are now proactively working towards police reform.
Mr. Bedford, same question. What's your view of the Civilian Oversight Committee?
I think it's great. I think it gives us an opportunity as ourselves to voice our concerns. I went to one of the meetings personally, and what I saw there was, it was, to me, not so uplifting for the MPD. It was, to me, that committee was telling the MPD all these things that they're doing bad. I didn't see not one uplifting comment from the committee to the MPD. Now, one of the things we have to understand is MPD is ours. It's the city of Modesto. We have to represent MPD because MPD represents us. Now, with the cops themselves, we can't really control them, but they're under management. But MPD is ours. We have to represent it and also encourage it and definitely support it. So in this meeting, this committee meeting that I was at, I didn't see neither of that happening there. It was just so many things that they were like not doing right, and so many things that standards that they had to do. I didn't see anything as what they were doing great. So my thing is, again, MPD is part of Modesto. It's always going to be a part of Modesto. And we always have to encourage the name MPD and inspire it to be great. Thank you.
Mr. Jones, what's your view of that civilian oversight committee?
Well, it's a start. The real action haven't came until something happened. That's what I'm waiting on. The real action. When we have a police involved shooting, this is what we're going to test. So when it's tested, we're going to find out if they're working. If it ain't working, we're going to have to make some adjustments. And as mayor, you can bet I'm going to see as fully functional and as equal at this review board. Like she said, each district pick who they want. Well, I don't know what it really pick until it comes down to the real action. So we have to stay tuned and beware. Just don't go on because we have it in place that is set in stone. No, there are going to be some checks and balances. And as mayor, I have to be on. I have to stand down and make sure that everyone, even the police department, and even the victim that's involved, is treated fairly. So we'll stay tuned on that.
Time. But I'm stay with you for a minute. What's your definition of that board working or not working? How do you define that?
Say it.
You mentioned waiting to see if that board is working or not. What's your definition of if that board is working?
Okay, my definition is when you got something said and you say, well, this is how it's supposed to operate. But when the real action comes down, like for instance, let's say a police shot a person and killed that person. And you say the report said the officer was in good standing. But we seen the video where the officer quickly reacted. Didn't take any other means of service, like maybe a taser, or being bag, or a net. That's what I mean by that. Is when it comes down to the real deal, we're going to find out if this thing is working. And that's how we'll find out. You have to wait and see. And see that. Because remember what she said. Each one pick their own people from their own district. Well, I don't know. It may be a better thing. I don't know. But time will tell.
Mayor Zwahlen, we recently found some cave dwellers in the area. What are the real answers to homelessness, and what should the city be doing to address some of these problems?
I think that that particular situation really revealed how dangerous the situation is and how desperate people are. When you consider the safety factor there, this was close to the river with the storms, with water rising. It really brought to light how dangerous it is for people. We are doing so many things in the city of Modesto to address those that are unhoused. We have initiated safe parking. We have initiated our day center. We are working towards funding for bridge housing, which will be small units. So we are waiting for people to respond to that. So it's complicated, it's difficult, but this council has been willing to look at all the variables and bring new ideas to our community to make addressing homelessness a priority in our community. And I know that housing is a crisis throughout our country. It's no different here. We are thousands of units short. So this is going to be an all-hands-on-deck approach to housing and helping our unsheltered.
Mr. Bedford, same homeless housing question.
All right, you mentioned the caves. I personally wish that wasn't a hazard, because back in the day, a lot of our people built caves to live into. They had to do what they had to do to find shelter. That's how bad it's getting. We had a problem 4 years ago, now it's a crisis. And what we've been hearing is we are working on it. I think that we should have found some type of solution to at least put out this fire. Because we're worrying about the homeless people that's homeless, which is need to worry about it. But also we have working class citizens that's one paycheck away from being homeless themselves. And we got nothing. I mean nothing ready for them. Absolutely nothing. No plan, no strategy, no agenda. Besides, we're working on it. 4 years in office, should have been a plan put in place already. I came up with a plan. It's not the best plan, but I came up with a plan. My plan is to talk to all the landlords. I put down together, I talk to all the landlords, and then put an incentive together for them, a tax incentive for them, so they can lower the rent. So we can start to take some of the fire down on the rent that people that's in the homes now. Because again, some of our working class citizens with 1 or 2 jobs are about to be homeless. With tax incentives on their property, they're able to lower the rent, $2 or $3, a couple $100. That works.
You're at time, but I have a question. I asked this earlier when someone mentioned grants, government grants and incentives. Who pays?
Back that again. So, property tax that landlords pay, right? So the city will give them an incentive tax break on their property tax. We will have a meeting with them to figure out what's affordable for them and what is a fair deal. And then once we come to a negotiation deal, landlords, if it works for them, if they accept the incentive tax, then we can start lowering, and they can start lowering some of their rent. To me, that's a pace that we can start working on right now. Because some of my candidates talking about build, and if we was going to build, we would have been build already. That's not going to happen anytime soon. But we need help now. We need solutions now. And then to me, this is the fastest thing that I can get started if I was to become mayor.
I'm not an accountant. I do balance my checkbook. That just I had a checkbook, not just let the computer do it. But if you're giving tax incentives, tax rebates, won't that have an impact on your general fund, the city's budget, and have an impact there then, where the city would have less money?
That's a great question. So my answer to that is, for the last 3 mayors we had, they were city mayors. They weren't citizen mayors, they were city mayors. The city is doing fine. We are doing great. We are paying our bills. It's about time the city started investing into the citizens. This is a crisis here. The city is not going to be out with a cup in their hand if we do this project. We're going to be okay. It's only going to be a 4-year project. We can bounce back from that.
I'll get to you shortly. Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. You go ahead. I've lost control.
Listen, people. I'm not going to put an incentive tax on nobody. What Mr. Jones is going to do, we're going to build. And I'm glad they're using my word crisis. because we're in a crisis. We're gonna build, and how we're gonna do it, say it's simple. The more we build, the less the land we got to buy stake that they come over there. He will bring down money because he wants somebody to stay in his place. But if you're over there paying 800 and he charging you 12 and you're going to 800, okay? So that's how we're gonna bring down. That's why I've been advocating for control. Now listen, how are we gonna build? You've got to have a solution. The solution is, I need, in my mind, I need 5,000 units. Jones, how you gonna get it? This is how we're gonna do it 2 ways. First of all, the developers and the general contractor has been left the low-income people out. They don't even care. They come to people like the mayor and tell me, look here, I want to build this 500 house over here. And then they make $1 billion sneak out of here at night time. And the people don't got nothing to finish it. But I'm going to tell you, wait, do you know the developers get an incentive tax from the federal? We're going to take that. And we're going to build in the low income like South and West Modesto. We're going to build.
You're at time, sir.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'll finish in 2 minutes.
Mayor Zwahlen, how should the city spend the money from its new 1% sales tax?
The people, the residents of Modesto have told us how they want the money spent. And that is what we have promised to them and to us, those of us that live here. It was abundantly clear that public safety was a top priority for those that wanted Measure H to pass, as well as addressing blight, addressing our trees and our forestry department, as well as homelessness. Those were the priorities that were laid out. We surveyed this ahead of time, so we knew going into it. And the residents supported it overwhelmingly. And that is what we are delivering on. We have increased our public safety. We have 15 recruit positions now open for our police department. We are adding advanced life support to our fire department. We've had more applicants for our police department than ever. We are tripling our park rangers. We have asked, our neighborhood preservation unit is now with the police department. We are going to increase enforcement there to address blight. We are having more bulky item pickup days. So we are delivering on what you, the residents, told us that you want. We are addressing those priorities, and you've made them, and we are meeting them.
Mr. Bedford, different question for you. What should the city do to reuse the community golf course?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question again, please?
Sure. How should the city reuse the Modesto Municipal Golf Course? Housing, recreation, something else?
Wow, that's a great question. That actually has not jumped on my radar on what options should be used for it. I mean, there's a couple of options. I mean, we definitely want to look at places where we can build. Like Mr. Jones said, build. You know, we're going to look at places for that. We also can be looking at places where we can develop more resources for our citizens. There's countless ideas that we can use for that, but to me personally, I will put it up to a vote to our citizens. The citizens have a big voice to what we can do with that, so they can be happy about the outcome. And just no, I'm gonna stick with that question. Thank you.
Mr. Jones, how should the city reuse the community golf course?
This is what you call leadership. I'm standing in it. 7 years ago, Mr. Jones was on the ground. At the mini golf course, there was $1 million. We evicted, and I was the first one down at the city council telling them, listen, we need to build. I'm sorry if I get a little passionate. Don't let me scare you. I said we need to build some senior citizens off of Roseland, put some homes there for my seniors. And I gotta build it the way I'm gonna live because I'm getting older, so I gotta build it comfortable So when I arrived, I said, well, that was in my place. Ain't gonna put apartments. See, the mayor told me I'm putting 30 or 40 homes. 30 or 40 homes. I got to get people out of the shelter. Come on now. If I can put 300 people over there, I guarantee you guys say, you guys will say, I don't see nobody walking the street with a basket. What did Jones do? The shelter is not asking for no money when ain't nobody there. Because you know what? Mr. Jones built an apartment and we did a prefabrication and it takes less than, I'm gonna say, a year. It took 9th Street 3.5 years to build 65 units. And the people that were sitting there waiting, they're either dead or found
Great time, sir.
Yeah.
Mayor Zwahlen, would you support allowing undocumented citizens from Modesto to vote in local elections?
I am not sure what the Constitution and the law would say about that currently. I support our immigrants. Our whole valley, my grandparents were immigrants that came here to farm. I support their efforts. I really can't speak to what the rule of law is regarding, voting for undocumented residents. I would certainly be open to that. They provide work in our community. They help us to get the food that feeds the world. So I am certainly open to considering that.
Ms. Bedford?
All right. When I let undocumented people vote
In local elections.
in local elections, my first question is, how will I know they're undocumented? I don't know. I wouldn't know if they're undocumented. I'm not walking the streets asking people whether they got documentations these days or not. So, I don't know. If it was something that, like I say, if we were having what we're having the problems on the border, and we know that they were getting buzzed in here in the city of Modesto, if they became productive citizens in the city of Modesto, pay their taxes, live like some, regular citizens, absolutely. Again, their voice matter because they live here now, yeah, I think that's my answer. I said yes, if they were being productive citizens in the city of Modesto, yes.
Well, hold it, don't, yeah, I'm gonna stay with you. I'm gonna stay with you with a Waukee City question. Do you know what the city's budget is, either the general fund or total overall?
I know our budget is over 200 million. I don't know the exact number. I know it's over 200 million. And our general funds, no, I don't know the exact number for the general funds.
Mr. Jones, do you know?
Let's go back to
No, we're gonna stay with this one for now. Do you know what the size of the city's budget is, either the general fund or total overall?
Well, it's easy to find out if I had any thought. I looked it up on the website and found out that that doesn't mean that I don't have that information. But when I get in and find out what I got, I'm going to build prefabrication, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom.
We're not talking about homes right now, just ask.
I'm going to go everything and go in.
I won't know, but I can cut you off as a moderator, so. And that's a specific question, we're
No,
looking for an answer.
at this time, I used to know all that's being in the city council.
Okay, and if you don't, that's fine, that's okay. I just want to see, again, it goes back to the background, see what your preparation is at this moment in time.
Good though.
That can always change, I just want to know
Yes.
if you knew what it was at this time. Okay. I'm sure Mayor Zwahlen knows I'm going to ask her that question. She probably looks at it every day. Mayor Zwahlen, you want to answer that?
Yes, overall, but not overall, but 500 million approximately.
The general fund?
About, I don't know exactly what the percentage is, but I do know that 80% pretty much goes towards public safety, so that's the largest portion of it.
Mr. General, I know that you supported tiny homes. It sounds like you're a big proponent of low-income housing for homes. What other issues involving the city is passionate about?
I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't exactly supported tiny homes. I had to go with it. But the problem got there, it was wasting money. And I need to put some concrete. What I'm saying is, you get these people in this closet, they only have a limited time to be there. Now, one mistake. You put them there because you want to find housing for them. This is like a Mayberry town. You got 100 people. Where you going to put them? They're asking people now to lend them some land to put some tiny homes here. But when they even got the money from the city, they supposed to have all that in the plan. You can understand. So what they do is they rotate them out. They stay there 6-7 months, and they're gone. And then they let another group come in and let them rest. By the time they get the money down, God bless them, they got to be back on the street because you're not going to find any place. I want y'all to think about this. Every time they get one person out of 70 on a place, they put that in the newspaper. That's no success. One, no. Success is
So what I sort of heard you say was that you view tiny homes as being some type of transition.
yes, it's the money that we spend on this year. Why don't we just build south and west of that stuff? Because, you know, they can borrow some of that money. Think about it. Let's be real with that story. I'm the only one up here that can walk with a big stick, and I mean what I'm saying. You have to be in control, people. You have to show leadership. You see that? Take a view of that. That's leadership. That's a person committed. So the tiny homes, well, I said, well, okay, since they don't want to build me no houses, so I had to go with it, you know. But in a sense, I would have said, listen, we're going to put some concrete over there to Freeda Park, and we're going to start building. That's the start. Because I don't want them out, and I don't want them mental. They'll be happy if they got a place where they can scramble in their head, watch the news, and relax, and barbecue. You'll be surprised. These people are not mental. No. I stayed 2 nights at the tin can with a baseball cap and some jeans. You know what I was with? I was like, wow.
You're a time server. And Mr. Bedford, what can be done to increase the diversity of the police force?
That's a great question. The last time I was at the forum that they had in the city, city of Modesto, they said it was over 300 some people, which the current mayor kind of mentioned that we've been having an overflow of people signing up to be police officers, which only about 5 or 10 actually made it through 300 people, which is that's alarming. Whatever process that they have to go through, you get 300 people that wants to sign up to be a police officer, and only about 5 or 10 make it through. We have to rethink or look at our process because the diversity did not make it through. And that was, to me, the first thing I learned was alarming of how 300-something people, and it was a really diverse crew, I mean, a group of people who decided to apply to be a police officer. But again, I think it was only 5 or 10 people that made it through. I think probably less than 10 that made it through, and the diversity wasn't there anymore. So I don't know if we have to take a good look at how, what process they have to go through in being a police officer. And the procedures, because after 300-something people and only under 10 people make it through, and then again, it was only one nationality that made it through, we got to take a look at that. I think the committee also mentioned that as well, that was a problem, and I agree with them about that as well. We live in a great city. That's why I mentioned earlier that we really have to make sure that we support it.
You're at time. Mayor's up. Same question.
We have done recently a better job. I was looking at the data, and we are becoming a more diverse department, but we do need to improve, definitely in this area. What we have done is established an equity commission since I was first voted as mayor. We also have an in-house DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion program that has been developed, and this is all about removing barriers and increasing access for a more diverse community, and that includes our police department. So we are working to address this situation. I personally agree that it's really important that our residents see community members that look like them and that they feel more connected with, so that we can have more success. So I know that we're working on this, and I am proud of the work that we've done thus far, and I look forward to seeing it more fully completed.
I want to share with you, before we move on to a different question. One of the things that keeps coming up when we talk about quality of life, talking about business in Modesto, is the lack of trained workers, the lack of higher paying jobs. What role can the city take in addressing that issue?
We have been involved very closely in the Stanislaus 2030 effort, which is an effort to specifically address bringing higher paying jobs to Stanislaus County in general. It's a county initiative. We participate as the city of Modesto, and I've been involved in those meetings and discussions. With that, we are really excited about the future potential of being circular. That is a program that will be looking at bio-ag tech jobs. This was mentioned previously this morning, and this is something that we've talked in length about, I remember, since 2018. So we're really on the cusp, I feel, of developing our economy in a way that will really address this need in particular. It's great. We do need higher paying jobs here. I served 8 years on the Modesto City Schools Board of Education. We worked very diligently there to train our students so that they can be prepared for either higher education or career technical education jobs. So I really dedicated a lot of my life to promoting healthcare jobs. I worked with the Modesto Junior College to bring nursing, improve and expand their nursing program, written letters, and been involved in so many aspects of this. So we have that as a top priority, and I really think that Stanislaus 2030 and being circular are going to help address that.
Mr. Bedford, same question. What role can the city play in bringing better jobs or training for better jobs?
That's a great question. We play the biggest role here in the city of Modesto, especially by being mayor. The mayor has a sense of influence to where we can influence other companies to come to the city of Modesto. We haven't done that within the last 4 years. I think the only thing that we invited here were like hamburger stands that's only hiring 5, 6, 7 people. We have an opportunity to start investing into our citizens by trade education. I know one of my ideas were I had to look at what was the highest paying jobs that I can get to the city fast enough and what people can learn fast enough to start making faster and more better income. And that was tech. This is the first time I've heard tech mentioned actually from my opponents, because my whole thing has been about tech. You can take a tech course and learn it within 2 months and then been able to apply for a tech job online. And 80% of our citizens are struggling here in the city of Modesto. If we was get 40% of our citizens to take tech classes sponsored by the city, we'd be a smart city to where we can offer other tech companies to come here in the city of Modesto so we can get tech jobs here. That's first. Second, I would definitely start investing in entrepreneurships and small businesses. We need to help our economy as well. The city has the tools and the resources to start making sure that we can help small businesses and help entrepreneurs. We are dreamers. We do need the options of raising new leadership and new CEOs. We have the capability of doing that here in the city of Modesto. We don't got to wait for outsiders to help us. We can help ourselves.
And also the question for you, Mr. Jones. No, we moved on to jobs.
Wow, that was me. Repeat the question. I'm sorry to me. I had something for you.
What role can the city play in bringing higher paid jobs and training people for those jobs?
I'm saying that is very good to me. It's a good question. Listen, this city is a great city in Modesto. See, we gotta take this approach. To get jobs here, we may have to give up a little land. And we may have to give a little tax break. Because in the long run, people want to have a job. They can be able to go to the east side, and north side, and buy a house. Because what Mr. Jones is telling these corporations, hey, come on, what can I do for you? And what can you bring for the people of this city so they can have a better paying job? So I believe in that. A little tax break, maybe 10 years, whatever. Maybe give me a little land, lease it for a minute, and then start paying for it or leasing it. And we'll get to recoup that money. But that's how we're going to bring jobs. We have to be creative. We have to think outside the box to bring jobs. I think God for the people that's commuting, but I mean they're bringing their money, but they're spending it at the restaurants and paying more.
You are at time. I'm going to check to see if we have any submitted questions. All right, this is directed to you, Mr. Jones. How are you planning on getting developers to build in a low-income community?
I love that. Remember I told you, leadership, solid boots on the ground. What we're going to do, the developers, the general contract, has been leaving us out. I found most states are taxing the general and the developers because they only been building where they can make their money and say, the low income, I'm not going to worry about y'all. Y'all go ahead and push a basket, live up under the bridge. So what we're going to do is, and you can check the books on this, we're going to develop a new area. They get a tax incentive from the federal because it's like a big deal. That's where they make their money. But they leave out, like, I'm going to give you an example, like South and West Modesto. Check your books. They haven't built no Zwahlen project, to be honest with you, there's a lot of code violation over it. I'll shut it down once I build some apartments so we can have a place to go, and then we'll build over there. So the plan is to get to the developers. Don't worry about losing the developer. They're gonna be in line. And I told them at the other debate.
And you're at time, sir. I have our final question tonight before we go to our closing statements. And I may ask the person who submitted this to clarify. It reads, you all have talked about community. But what community are you talking about? Is it your community of people or the community in general?
I asked that question.
I don't.
And this was where again? So your question is your definition of community, is it just your circle that you interact with, or everybody who you are supposed to represent? Okay. Is everyone understand that? Yes, that's for all of them. Is that clear? That question clear? Or will we clarify? You start with Ms. Zwahlen.
I've spent my entire life dedicated to all the residents of this community, whether it's at the hospital in the emergency room, whether it's my service for almost 30 years on the Interfaith Ministries Board or the Interfaith Council. On the school board, every meeting is publicly recognized and everyone in the public is invited to attend. So I feel like I have engaged in my life with all the residents of our community. I respect everyone and I recognize that everyone has different needs. Each individual person has unique needs. I listen and do my best to make decisions that will be for the betterment of everyone in our community. I believe that my record shows that. I've never backed down from any opportunity to be inclusive, as I mentioned, and now as mayor, making official recommendations for such things in our Equity Commission, our Youth Commission, our DEI in-house. So I do my best to represent all the residents of our community.
Thank you, Ms. Bedford. Same question.
That's a great question. And you are 100% right when you ask the question, what community? We all know that there are separate communities here, right? When she mentioned for the 1% tax, and she mentioned that the people have voted for what we did with the tax dollars, I was very questioned about what community people voted for that. Because the people that I talk to every day, they had no idea what was going on with that personal vote or that bill. I don't understand it. It is to me like we get in front of politicians and people who govern over us. They keep saying community, 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 but they are not in the community without being political. They're not in the community just checking up on their community, going to figure out something. Hey, how y'all doing out there? Is everything working? Is the resources working for y'all out here? We don't get that, but they say they're in the community. That's what I said before. We have had city mayors. We never had the citizens mayor where they're checking on the citizens. Now, Measure H, when they mention that, they keep pushing that out there to us. we know that that's going to be taken care of on the other side of town. It's not going to be on the town where it's needed at. By the time it even gets over there, it'll be depleted. So what community are we addressing here? To me, when I said I'm running for mayor, I know east side, south, east side, north side, they need different things on what the west side and south side needs. We have to make an understanding.
You're in time, sir.
My time goes fast. You guys speak
You get more, you just get passionate.
My passion.
All right, Mr. Jones, same question.
Fellow citizen. That's why for well over 10 years they call me the junior mayor. Because you gotta know what's going on in your city. Y'all know a lot of people call me. Yes, we got a little problem over there. At west side, because I don't like some stuff. I don't want to get into it, but I understand what she's saying. When it comes down to this community, it's you guys don't know that it's divided. I'm sorry. I know this from well over 13, 14 years. They got to call me to get over that city and get it straight for the community. I've been boots on the ground well over 15 some years. You better know what's going on in your city. And you better be able to handle it. Because as mayor, I got over 10,000 employees. And you don't think they're going to try to reach out me? I got a surprise for them. We're going to clean the house. And they may dump her $10,000 people in so they can keep doing what they're doing. Just because what Mr. Jones said. But you have to clean the house in order to make the city function. Okay? We lost $20 million on that. I love you.
We're at time. All right, it's been very interesting discussion. We're going to start with closing arguments. And we'll start with you, Mr. Jones.
I love in my loving community here. If you want change, and this is no joke, if you want to stay like the other 3 years that I've been through, then vote that way. But if you want to flip it like pancakes, vote Mr. Jones first on the list. My record speaks for myself. I told you I don't have nobody, I'm running by myself. This town has to be functional. And it has to be run right. You must have a diversity police department. Yes, I can put it in now. For well over 13 years, I've been to every police academy when they graduate. Our last lady was 6 years ago. Her name was Jessica, officer. She was our first African-American police officer. She's gone now. She's in Lakeland. I can imagine what happened. I'm not going to get in there. But like I told all the chiefs, I need your police officer to grow with the neighborhood. That way you won't kill little Billy, because little Billy's a little retarded. But if you grow in that neighborhood, you know your neighbor. So I'm asking for each one of you to cast your vote for the real deal. Someone would have 8.5 shoes, boots on the ground. Vote. What you got to lose? If they ain't sure they self-approved now, if they ain't real on the south and west, and they let them people come in here and build 500 homes at $450,000, and the public still trying to survive. Listen, people, let's be real. Boom. Sebastian Jones.
Mayor, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
All right, thank you for hosting this forum. This will not be a closing argument. It will be a statement. I'm honored to be your mayor. I'm a wife, a mom, a grandmother, a registered nurse, and a lifelong Modesto resident. I look at my role as mayor through the lens of what I want this city to be for our children, our grandchildren, my patients, neighbors, and all of the residents of Modesto. I want a safe, clean, and vibrant city that we can all be proud of. I treat being mayor as more than a full-time job and truly feel a personal sense of responsibility to everyone who calls Modesto home. If I'm elected to a second term, I hope that everyone here will be partners with me in moving Modesto forward. I have an open door policy as mayor, and I do respond to everyone who reaches out to me. Please always feel free to reach out to me with questions or recommendations. I think we have a good momentum going on our council, and I want to be able to see it through a second term. Remember to turn your ballot in by March 5th. I'd be honored to have your support and encourage you to reach out to me by visiting my website at SueForMayor, that's F-O-R, mayor.com, or emailing me at sue@sueformayor.com. Thank you again.
And Mr. Bedford.
All right. Thank you. I'm running for mayor. Listen, I don't have all the answers. I never will say I do, but I have solutions. I've been coming up with solutions since I've been a commissioner, and my voice wasn't even heard inside of there. We had 4 years, current mayor, to take care of some of these issues. They turned into crisis. If I'm not mistaken, she ran on civility and with an educational background, and I'd rather have had city council bickering to where at least we know that they're fighting for something. To me, now, the one accomplishment that I've heard so far is that they're all getting along well. I don't know if they're getting along well or they've all been groomed well. Because none of the things that they're passing is representing the city of Modesto, our citizens. We should not be in this crisis on where we at if the current mayor would have came in to me with her educational background and saying, hey, maybe we need to work on financial literacy for our citizens. Maybe we need to work on good debt, bad debt, so we can train our youth to understand this financial system. I'm a Gen X. After me, we got the millennials and Gen Zs. We have to start preparing those two eras because next is Gen X is going into senior citizens. Some of my senior citizens right now are scared they don't fixed incomes. We're not really talking about that. We're talking about parks and all these other things. We're not talking about our veterans as it comes up on election year. We're not talking about that through the year. We're not talking about none of the pressing issues through the year besides election year. I'm talking about these things now because this is my first time running. I'm in my mid-40s. I came up here tonight with plans that everybody can see on my back table. I have a plan for every issue that we have here in the city of Modesto.
Mr. Bedford,
thank you.
at your time.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't see the sign. I was blinded by the light.
All right, everyone, thank you for attending. As a reminder, this is a race that can be decided in the primary if any of the candidates receive 50% plus 1 for majority of the vote. Thank you for attending, and thank you to the NAACP